ensuring that our communities here across the district are getting the resources that they deserve. So whether it's resources for housing, for healthcare, for food security, for older adults, other programs for our children, education, those things come from the state. And much of our time in the state legislature is about fighting for a fair and just budget. But if we tax the rich, the people who earn the most amongst us, that are ultra wealthy, that do not pay their fair share, if we're able to garner funds from those communities, we could then pay for the issues and programs and vital agencies that support the work that we need to do and the communities that we need to serve. So that to me would be the #1 issue, because once we get that done, we're able to get the revenue. Because tax revenue is a complicated policy, but getting that done is able to give us the funding that we need to make sure that every child is fed, that our schools are well resourced, that our older adults are cared for, that everyone has health care. I want to say one thing. Trump cut health care for New Yorkers. In July 1st, there's going to be almost 500,000 people who's going to lose access to health care. And we fought like hell, but because we didn't have the revenue to cover those communities, there's going to be people who are not going to have access to health care come June 1st. I'm still going to fight like hell, but if we tax the rich, we can actually get that revenue to make sure that we're all healthy and cared for across the district and across the state.
All right, thank you for that. The next question is going to be about housing and rent prices. District 13 is one of the most rent-burdened areas in New York City with increasing displacement pressure. Do you believe New York State is doing enough on housing production and tenant protections? If not, what specific change in state law would you prioritize first?
That is a great question. As an assembly member, one of the #1 issues that constituents come to us for is housing. They either need relief from the housing, a rent freeze, or they need senior housing, or affordable housing. So we have made some strides, but there's much more to do. I rolled out a housing plan that includes building a 21st century Mitchell-Lama style housing. My mother and my grandmother lived in Mitchell-Lama, and it's where people can afford living in co-ops that they can afford. It's very, very affordable. You have income caps, and it's a very dignified community. We have to make those public investments in order to ensure that everyone has access to dignified housing. I also know there's many co-ops in our communities, and I have a plan to build a state co-op preservation fund, because many of the co-ops in our neighborhood are actually very old, which makes the neighborhood so beautiful, but the infrastructure is crumbling. So having a state co-op preservation fund would allow us to be able to draw down some funds to assist families that are struggling with these huge maintenance and assessments. There's also a bill around social housing authority, so we think about housing as a public good, and that we can be able to be building more affordable housing for our communities. And one last thing that we fought for, we got a pilot, which is something called the Housing Access Voucher Program, HAVP, you may have heard of that. We got $50 million in a pilot to test out this program, but essentially it's a state voucher to let people be able to live in housing, again, that's dignified and affordable in their communities and have some assistance to live there. So there's a number of housing policies. I've rolled out plans for this. I've worked at the forefront of housing justice. I've protected tenants. I've literally gone to court with tenants in the district that have been abused by developers like A&E that have continued to have violations, rodent infestations, unsafe conditions, no gas, no elevators. I mean, it's horrific. No person should live under those conditions, and I believe housing is a human right. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The next topic is in regards to immigration and the role that the state plays in the protection of immigrant rights here in New York City. District 13 is home to one of the most diverse immigrant populations in the country. With increased federal immigration enforcement and fear within immigrant communities, what role should New York play in protecting undocumented residents? Where should the line be drawn between state cooperation and federal enforcement? And would you support expanding state-funded legal defense for immigrants or strengthen sanctuary protections statewide?
Yes, this is a great and very relevant question. So I'm a daughter of an immigrant, and this district, as you mentioned, is one of the most diverse districts, not just in the city, not just in the state, but arguably the world. And our immigrant community makes our community vibrant and powerful and beautiful, and we must fight to protect them. We could do a lot at the state level. Unfortunately, the federal government deals with like immigration, citizenship, etc. But we can work to protect immigrants, and we did. So we just came out of a state budget where we fought tooth and nail for a bill called New York for All. And New York for All would prohibit collusion between local law enforcement and federal immigration authorities. It would also prohibit something called 287G agreements, where like local jails can be used as detention centers. Now, we were successful in ending the 287G agreements. We were successful in expanding what's called sensitive locations, meaning places like schools, domestic violence shelters, hospitals, universities, which is part of my bill that I got in the budget to protect students, their data, etc. That's been expanded. So without a judicial warrant, ICE agents cannot enter those facilities to kidnap our neighbors. So we've expanded that. We've invested millions in legal protections, and yes, the Access to Representation Act is sponsored by Catalina Cruz, who's been a champion, making sure that we have legal representation in our courts for our undocumented communities and anyone facing an immigration case. That is our responsibility. We have to care for our neighbors. So I will continue to fight. We got a lot done, and I'm really proud, and we fought like hell. I even went to 26 Federal Plaza to inspect the conditions by which they were snatching our neighbors at the courthouse and throwing them into a facility, and we demanded to see the facility, and they didn't let us in, so I got arrested. And we made sure to make a point to argue that this is something that elected officials should be able to witness and ensure they adhere to the law. Thank you.
No legalization of prostitution.
Relax, We'll get to that point.
Alright, so this next question is a little loaded. If you need me to repeat anything, please let me know. This is about public safety and quality of life. Residents across State Senate District 13 consistently express concerns about public safety, not only in terms of serious crime, but also quality of life issues that directly affect daily life in neighborhoods like Roosevelt Avenue, including persistent reports of street-level prostitution, illegal vending, and associated disorder. At the same time, many community members emphasize the importance of ensuring enforcement is fair, culturally sensitive, and does not unfairly target immigrant populations or small vendors trying to make a living. What specific policies would you support at the state level to address these public safety and quality of life concerns in a way that balances enforcement with community trust? And how would you measure whether your approach is actually improving conditions on the ground in District 13?
That is a really great and relevant question as well. So at the state level, what we have to do is make investments. Everyone wants public safety, right? Here, everyone, right? We all want to feel safe in our communities. We want to make sure we can take our children to school, that we can engage in our local businesses and local entertainment, be able to live, work, and thrive in our neighborhoods. And that takes, so you don't want to be safe? That takes investment. And to borrow
Prostitution, that's not safe either.
Excuse me, okay, can I just say something? As Japanese mentioned before, I understand that we all are very passionate about this race, but we are here not to rally or to have a debate. This is a candidate forum. This is an opportunity for the candidates to come up, for them to speak their positions, for you all to listen, and then make your decision of what you want to do going forward. So let's respect the candidates. They've taken their time to come out here and to speak to all of you. So please give them respect. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm going to borrow a statement from Congresswoman AOC. She said the safest communities don't have more cops, they have more programs, they have more investments. And that is what I plan to do. I want to bring investments into youth mental health services. I want to bring investments into gun violence prevention programs. I want to bring investments into workforce opportunity. Because the best way to address crime is a job, right? We want to make sure our communities are cared for, because some of the crimes that are happening in our neighborhoods is often petty crimes. right? People stealing food and, and diapers. We hear these stories all the time, which is tragic. And we want to be safe. That's not okay. But we want to make sure that we're providing the services and resources that people can be safe and be taken care of and serve. And that's what I've been fighting for. I work with I almost called you a congresswoman. I work with the assembly member in bringing resources and funding for anti-human trafficking programs to make sure we're taking care of those that might be in a trafficking situation, that we're investing in our immigrant communities that are often marginalized from the mainstream work environment, and that we're able to provide those resources and opportunity, because that's what it's going to take to deliver for our community. Also, I have a plan around infrastructure, because we know crime thrives in darkness. And along Roosevelt Avenue is an elevated 7 train, and we need to make sure that we're bringing light to the darkness of that community. We want it to be vibrant, we want it to be beautiful, we want people to be able to enjoy the shops in our community because they are amazing, and we want to be sure that we can, excuse me, thank you. We want to make sure that we can beautify the area and that people feel that they can bring their children and communities to the area of Roosevelt Avenue. And light will bring light to the darkness and make sure that it feels safer and more accessible for our neighborhood. Thank you.
All right, guys, can you please, let's settle down, please. We have 2 more candidates, and we want to hear everybody equally. So let's get through the questions. These are very important things. We can't be one-issue voters here. I mean, we can, but there's a lot of issues going on in this part of Queens that I think the public needs to know about, right? So that's what they're here for. Okay, thank you so much. Now we're going into something very important that should concern all of us, which is education. Public schools in Queens face overcrowding, high ESL student populations, and growing mental health needs. What changes would you advocate for in Albany to improve how New York funds and supports high-need school districts like those in District 13? And do you support changes to specialized high school admissions policy in New York City? Why or why not?
Thank you for that question. I'm a public school mom, and I'm proud to be a public school mom. My partner served on the Community Education Council, so we've been active parents in our child's education. And I bring that energy and love for our schools and our school children to the State Assembly and hopefully to the State Senate. I'm part of the Mom Squad. At the Mom Squad, we're fighting for education funding to make sure that every child has access to quality of education. And I've done a few things that I'm very proud of. I've been able to invest more funding to make sure that those school districts that have shelters are able to get more funding to provide the resources that they need for social workers and therapists to make sure that those children are taken care of. We also fought for funding for English language learners and schools that have a large population of English language learners, because we need to make sure those fundings are available for teachers that speak the language that the children speak so that they can fully integrate into the schools. I fought for smaller class size, which happened a few years ago, and we're fighting to ensure that there's funding and resources to accommodate the smaller class size bill. But it's really critical that we make stronger investments. And again, this is about where the money's going. A lot of our job is the budget, and we have to make sure that we're investing in school social workers. And my very first bill in the State Assembly was around school social workers. And making sure that those children have access to the mental health care that they need, because the U.S. Surgeon General said that we're facing a mental health crisis amongst our young people. And if we really care about our young people, we will make that investment. If we really care about the future of New York State, we will make that investment. So I have been advocating for bills to ensure that we have, again, Diwali as a school holiday, that we have Eid across the state, but we're actually delivering on the resources that we need to make sure the students, the school community, and the teachers have the opportunity and resources to thrive.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. The next one is about our healthcare and Medicaid system. Queens residents, especially immigrant communities, continue to face barriers in accessing affordable and culturally competent healthcare. What should New York State do to strengthen Medicaid, mental health services, and hospital funding in underserved communities like District 13? And as a follow-up, do Do you support expanding state-funded healthcare coverage regardless of immigration status?
That was my bill. So I believe healthcare is a human right. Every single one of us will need access to healthcare in our lifetime. There's no way to avoid it. We need vaccines, we need well visits, some of us might get pregnant and have children and need prenatal care, postnatal care, etc. Right? We all need access to healthcare, and that's been my life's work. And I'm so proud to have introduced the Coverage for All bill, which would ensure that every single New Yorker, regardless of their immigration status, will have access to health care. So that is called Coverage for All. 2 years ago, we were able to expand our health program due to the fight that I brought to it to ensure that we're covering pregnant women prenatal and then postpartum, and then be able to cover older adults regardless of immigration status. Here in New York City, we have an amazing program called New York City Cares that provides care no matter your immigration status. But unfortunately, it's only in the health and hospital system. We want to make sure everyone has access to preventative care. We want to make sure that everyone has access to mental health care. And as I said earlier, mental health care has been one of my top priorities, because if we address the mental health crisis here in our state, we can address a lot of issues. Audre Lorde said there's no such thing as a single issue struggle, because we do not live single issue lives. And it's really important that we're thinking about how healthcare, how housing, how immigration status, etc. impact someone's ability to thrive here in New York. So I am a huge proponent of health access. I've been fighting to ensure that we have health resources, and I was successful in delivering millions of dollars back into New York City when Cuomo cut our reimbursement rate for healthcare, and I was able to deliver that back once our Mayor Montagne was back in office. So I'm very proud of the funding I brought to the community, the fact that we're covering our immigrant communities. I'm the only candidate in this race that has been successful in doing that, and I'm going to continue to fight to make sure every single person has access to the quality healthcare that they need.
Yeah.
Right on time. The next, awesome, thank you so much. We're almost near the end of this part of the forum. The next two questions are very specific to this district. One has to do with Metropolitan Park Casino proposal. The proposed Metropolitan Park Casino that just got approved and the entertainment complex is nearby Corona, in the nearby Corona. Guys, please, we're almost done with this part. Just be focused. Let me start again. The proposed Metropolitan Park Casino and entertainment complex that just got passed in nearby Corona has generated significant debate across Queens. Supporters argue it would bring jobs, tax revenue, and economic investment to the area, while opponents raise concerns about gambling addiction, traffic congestion, strain on infrastructure, and long-term community impact. As a state senator representing this district, what is your position on this project? What specific conditions, if any, would need to be met for you to support or oppose it?
Thank you so much. So I want to be crystal clear on this, because there's a lot of lies out there. There are two places where the state legislature had a role. One was a land use bill, because that property where City Field is was considered parkland by Robert Moses in the 30s. So the bill I voted for, and I voted for it, creates 25 acres of parkland. It creates shops, businesses, gaming facility, hotel, community space, community center, daycare, etc. It was a very hard vote, and I want to be honest about that. I took a listening stance for years. I solicited feedback from the community. I talked to voters and neighbors every single day, and I asked people, tell me your opinions, because it's not true. I asked people for their opinions because I understand that this project was going to bring a lot of jobs to the area.
You lie.
And
Let's please keep it respectful, guys. Thank you. Please continue.
thank you. It's going to bring a lot of jobs to the area, 23,000 union jobs, good paying union jobs. So I solicited feedback. 5-1 in my district, in my assembly district, told me they wanted this project. I voted for the land use bill. I did not vote for a casino. The land use bill is the land use bill. It allows for the casino to be built. But the vote for the casino, whether the casino gets a license, was a 6-person body made up of the governor, the mayor, the borough president, the state senator of the district, state assembly member of the district, and the city council member. The vote to recommend that Metropolitan Park get a license was unanimous. So every single member of that body, including the incumbent senator that claims to oppose it, that claims to oppose it, voted for it. So listen, guys, this is a private, guys, listen, this is a private facility, and they were very gracious for us to be here, all of us, okay? Let's hear what we have to say. The other two candidates can rebuttal when they come up, and they, part of being first is bad and good. So, you know, if they have anything.
Should have been on one panel.
Again, we want to accommodate everybody and make sure they're here. The fact that you're here, we all appreciate it, but that was part of it. I'd rather have all three than two. So we want to hear what the Assemblywoman has to say, and the other two candidates, when they come up here, they can say whatever they want, and we will respect that too. So please, audience members, let's respect all three equally so we can actually hear their responses. Thank you. This is my last chance. NYPD is literally outside, so I'm just saying, you don't want to, we want to make sure it stays respectful. This is a private facility, and we want to make sure we hear every candidate. That's all I'm saying. So please, let's make sure we get through it.
So it's public record. It was a unanimous vote by 6-person body, including the incumbent state senator, that voted to recommend that Metropolitan Park get a gaming license. So let's be 1,000% clear. Now, what we have to do now, and I'm committed to doing, is ensuring that the project upholds its commitments to the community. There are hundreds of millions of dollars in community benefits. There are 23,000 union jobs. There's 450 units of fully affordable housing that's being built. And we want to make sure that we're holding them accountable. And as state senator, I am going to be very committed to bringing the community together. There's been a lot of lies and division, and I want to make sure we bring the community together to hold the project accountable to ensure that they're delivering for our neighborhood. Thank you.
En el sector donde ella trabaja y vive, no ayuda a nadie. Esa mujer la conozco yo por muchos años. Y ella no se acuerda.
I appreciate it.
Ella no se acuerda de mí.
Thank you. Okay, cool. So we're almost last two questions, and again, these are very important. I want you guys to actually hear these responses because, again, voting is started. We want to know what the candidates really stand for. The next question is regarding the Chinese American Planning Council, which is a home care agency that has allegedly taken $90 million from immigrant women, home care workers, illegally stealing 11 hours of wages from each 24-hour workday. Yet CPC still receives hundreds of millions in state funding every year in violation of state law. What is your stance on the issue, and do you think that state government should stop funding CPC until CPC pays back workers?
Thank you for that question. I have been an advocate for the home care industry for a long time, and I have been endorsed by something called Caring Majority, which is an organization of home care workers and advocates. I have fought for the Fair Pay for Home Care bill, which we were successful in ensuring that our home care workers have an increase in their wages. And I have fought tooth and nail against the private equity takeover of the CDPAP program. And I just want to mention CDPAP because many of the small Bangladeshi agencies that provide home care were hard hit by the CDPAP transition. Is anyone here that owns one of the companies? So I have fought to make sure that the workers were taken care of, that the patients were taken care of, and that the small agencies that provide linguistically competent care for our communities were able to thrive. Now, I have a bill that requires transparency and holds the government accountable in terms of how that $11 billion contract is playing out. Now, CPC is a nonprofit organization. I don't fund CPC. I'm familiar with some of their work. They do some really good work on food security and immigrant health care, but we don't work with them on home care. So they're a nonprofit. The stake is money. My funding to the community is dedicated to community-based organization here in the district that is providing resources to our neighbors to ensure that they have the opportunity, again, to thrive and have a leg up in New York State. So thank you for that question, I appreciate it. And they don't make endorsements. They're a 501c3 that don't make endorsements, so there's no endorsement by this organization.
All right, thank you. So this next question is going to be about the foreign conflict happening overseas. District 13 includes residents with deeply personal ties to Israelis and Palestinians, and the ongoing conflict has had real impact on community relations in New York City, including reported increases in anti-Semitism and Islamophobia. While foreign policy is federal, what responsibility should state lawmakers have in addressing the local impact of global conflicts, particularly in terms of hate crimes, public disclosure, and community cohesion in Queens? In addition, this ongoing conflict has led to a significant increase in Islamophobia and anti-Semitism. And how do you plan on addressing this very important issue in New York City?
Thank you for that question. So I was the first assembly member to call for a ceasefire in Gaza. And I seek to bring peace to the world. My background is in international affairs, and to see the ongoing conflict is heartbreaking. But we have to make sure we're holding those accountable. And at the state level, we have limited capacity to do so. But there is a bill called Not on Our Dime that will ensure that nonprofits are not sending weapons to Israel for murdering people in Gaza. So I am on the Not on Our Dime bill, and I've worked with Mayor Mamdani when he was in the assembly as he was drafting that, and I'm now a co-sponsor of that bill. I think I'm the only person that has spoken out against the atrocities in Gaza. Thank you. And I will continue to find ways to build more cohesion and community safety. One thing that I've done was bring a group called Malaka, which is based in Astoria. They work with women, and we did upstander trainings when we were seeing rising Islamophobia and anti-Asian hate happening in our neighborhoods. And we did upstander trainings. So we taught community members how to protect themselves, but also how to watch out for one another, right? And how to be a good upstander, not just a bystander. So I have done I've done that a number of times. We've done it in Traverse Park and other areas around the district, where we gathered community for a safety training so people can keep themselves and each other safe, because we are a diverse community and we have to take care of one another. Thank
That
you.
was not the question. You didn't answer the question.
Thank you.
You did not answer the question. That was not the question.
Sir, excuse me. Guys, we are not making side comments here. That has already been established. Whatever personal opinions you have to keep them to yourself. We're on a time limit. We need to keep asking the candidates questions. So thank you. And thank you to the Assemblywoman as well. So for this next question, we compiled questions from the audience. And here's one of the questions from the audience that we would like to ask you. So this is specifically for you. One of the biggest critiques about your campaign is your alignment with the new casino project. Where do you stand on the project, and how will you work with those that oppose it to find balance for what's best for Senate District 13? And do you vow to denounce any IE spending done by the casino to impact the result of this election?
I answered the question already. I voted for the land use bill, and now that the project has been approved, I plan to hold the project accountable to ensure that they're delivering on their results. I actually want to bring you all into that process, because it's been such a divisive process with a lot of misinformation. And again, I'm someone who wants to tax the rich, so we want to extract as much money and resources from a billionaire to make sure that we're delivering for our neighbors.
Yes.
So my plan is to ensure that we're building an accountability mechanism, whether it's a co-governance model or accountability circles, to make sure that we're getting updates from the project, feedback from the project, but that the project is hearing from you all. That is really critical to me, because there is a lot of money on the table, a lot of resources that our communities can benefit from, and we want to make sure that they're delivering on those promises. So that's what I'm really committed to. And in terms of IEs, we have there's a firewall, so I'm actually not even aware of what IEs are out there.
Awesome.
Yeah, right.
So guys, before we have the last closing statement, which will be 2 minutes, just to end it off on lighter heart. Just quick rapid round, one answer questions, and then we'll go from there. Very quick, yes, under 5 seconds. Favorite restaurant or small business in the district?
It's like asking for my favorite child. I love Himalayan yak.
Love it.
Yes.
Okay. Favorite pastime or hobby when not campaigning?
Dancing. Salsa.
What would you rate the job Zora Mamdani has been doing thus far as mayor? 1 out of 10.
Oh, I think it's been doing great. I would say 9.
Do you support congestion pricing?
Yes.
Do you support Queenslink?
Yes.
Has Kathy Hochul been effective as governor?
She's done some good stuff. I don't always agree with her.
So yes or no?
I can't answer that.
Do you support Chuck Schumer as the Democrat leader in the Senate?
We don't make that decision, but I'm ready for new leadership.
Do you support Hakeem Jeffries as the Democrat leader in the House?
Again, we don't make those decisions, but open to new leadership.
Who you support?
Do you
We don't work
guys,
with
last
them.
one, come on guys, let's get this.
So the question
Do
is,
you consider,
Yes or no?
Guys,
relax,
we need to get to the candidates so the next candidate can come on. Let's keep track of time, please.
do you consider what Israel is doing in Gaza a genocide?
I do.
With that being said, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And you have 2 minutes for closing statement.
Yeah, no, I just want to really thank you all for bringing us together to making sure that there's robust conversation. I actually appreciate this format. I wish people were listening a little bit better, but I really am grateful for having the space to answer questions and hear from the community and be able to work together for the betterment of our South Asian Indo-Caribbean communities. The South Asian Indo-Caribbean community is so incredibly powerful and vibrant, and the organizations on the ground in the community are really making change in our neighborhoods, and I'm so proud to work alongside so many of those leaders to be able to make sure that Queens is for everyone, and that we're supporting one another, we're addressing Islamophobia, and that we're supporting our small businesses and our restaurant owners and those that are giving so much to our neighborhood that makes Queens so special. So thank you so much.
And
Let me give a big round of applause for Assemblywoman. One thing I do want to say is, again, all 3 candidates are extremely busy, so we thank you once again. I know you have other obligations, so they have to head out, but we really appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you. Can you be more respectful? What's up? All right, we'll have the next candidate come up, Mr. Hiram Montserrat. Please come up. My sister, please. Thank you.
I will see you back. We need you back. You have the knowledge.
Okay. So that being said, okay, you have great. I think you already got a great intro already, but you have 2 minutes for an opening statement. Once the mic goes to you, it's going to stay with you. Okay?
Good evening to everyone. Salaam alaikum. Namaste. First of all, I want to thank all of you for being here today and to listening to everything that's said, both the truth and the untruths that you heard this evening. My name is Hiram Montserrat. I am a Democratic District Leader elected in 2018 and re-elected 3 times. I serve this community because I love this community. I live here. And I'm running because I'm sick and tired of the failures of government to keep this community safe and clean. Roosevelt Avenue is the biggest national disgrace in our community. Everyone knows what's happening on Roosevelt Avenue. The cartels are running it. The street gangs are running it. Every criminal element is running human trafficking, drugs, selling stolen property, and engaging in crime. And our elected officials for the last 6 to 7 years have done nothing to make it better. This community did rallies. We had protests. We called for the FBI. We called for the state troopers. The governor sent us 100 state troopers, even though the 2 state officials that are asking you to vote for them didn't ask for 1. our children, our community. There was a 16-year-old girl shot because they thought she was a prostitute on Roosevelt Avenue. What did we hear from our elected officials? Nothing. They supported defunding the police. They cut $1 billion from the NYPD budget, and our local precinct has over 30% less police officers today than they did a few years ago. We don't have enough hospital beds. Our schools are failing. Over 24 failing and underperforming schools in District 13 and District 34. All of it happening on their watch. I would say to you, I would proffer to you, that if we re-elected or elected either one of them, we are a glutton for our own punishment, because we're going to get more of the same. More crime, less safety, and less health care. I ask you for your vote. I will never support legalizing prostitution. Both Jessica Ramos and Jessica Rojas signed the bill to make that a law in New York State. We'll stop it at the next state senate. We're going to ensure that our community is clean. Okay, I'm going to close it up. I have to close it up because the gentleman hinted to me that it was time to close my intro. There'll be more to hear. Thank you very much for being here tonight. Thank you.
All right, let's get started with the first question. It is on the topic of political alignment, endorsements, and government approach. State Senate District 13 is widely seen as a part of a growing progressive coalition in Queens, but also includes a broad spectrum of Democratic voters, from labor-aligned moderates to Democratic socialists and tenant organizations. You and your opponents have significant endorsements from different wings of the Democratic coalition. What does your campaign say about the future direction of Queens politics, and how will you govern in Albany when you are elected to build coalitions across ideological divides within your own party?
Thank you. I believe in building coalitions. When I was a member of the city council, I was the co-chair of the Black, Latino, and Asian caucus. And we brought together a diverse group of people to deal with the issues of the day. In fact, the first person in New York politics to introduce protection for people who were undocumented was Hiram Montserrat in the city council. In 2003, when my opponents were still trying to figure out, I introduced a bill in the city council called Access Without Fear.
Yes.
That bill became Executive Order 41 after Mayor Bloomberg at the time wanted to allow our NYPD to be federalized and used by the federal government. We went forward and we changed the mayor's mind. And that Executive Order 41 became the laws that we are hearing about today. Everything that they're speaking about is honorable, but they're about 23 years too late talking about it. New York City has always been a sanctuary to protect everyone, and it will continue to be, and in the Senate, I will ensure that. Thank you very much.
All right, guys, let's move on to affordability and cost of living. New York State controls tax policy, budget priorities, and major affordability programs that directly shape the cost of living in Queens. What is the single most impactful state policy you would fight for to reduce the cost burden on working class families in District 13, and how would you pay for it?
There's a lot of ways to get to affordability, but the state government has limitations. But let me tell you what we can do really quickly. Con Ed bill, $25 tax. Water bill, $80 tax. Gas bill, another $25 tax. Your cell phone, another tax. Sales tax, 8.675 in New York, much higher than any of our counterparts. I'm the only person out of the three candidates that voted against raising the sales tax. I'm the only candidate out of the three running that voted against raising the sales tax in the state and city of New York. We should roll that back. There should be. You want to talk about affordability? Con Ed bill, gas bill, sky high. You know who appoints the people who sit on the power authority that raise our rates? The state assembly and the state senate. The people who represent you today, who want to claim that they have nothing to do with the raising of the rates. Eliminate taxation on all essential services. There should be zero tax on your water because you cannot live without water. There should be zero tax on your gas because you can't live without heating. There should be zero tax on your oil because you can't live without these essential services. So, while my opponent a few seconds ago talked about tax the rich, she never talks about relief and untaxing the working people of this community and this state. And we've had enough. Stadium to make another billionaire more rich. The irony here is that some of our so-called progressive political leaders are so busy talking about being progressive, but they make plenty of money for the billionaires. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a sad joke on all of us.
The next question is in regards to immigration and the state's role in protecting immigrants in this community. District 13 is home to one of the most diverse immigrant populations in the country. With increased federal immigration enforcement and fear within immigrant communities, what role should New York State play in protecting undocumented residents? Where should the line be drawn between the state cooperation and federal enforcement? And would you support expanding state-funded legal defense for immigrants or strengthening sanctuary protections statewide?
So, I think I answered part of this question with the earlier discussion about access without fear. Clearly, the state should not be involved in any way, shape, or form with respect to immigration enforcement. If there is someone, obviously, like the leader of Tren de Agua or the 18th Street gang that's running human trafficking on Roosevelt Avenue, then yes, the NYPD of the state should hand them over right after they go to prison and send them away because we don't need them here. What we need is immigrants here, like my parents, who come here to work, who come here to build up our community, and don't make an excuse about their status to engage in criminality, which is what's happening right now on Roosevelt Avenue. Let me also speak about the vendors, because I know that question was there. I support the vendors, but I don't support 1,000 unlicensed vendors selling unsafe food to my community. And that's what's happening now, because no one has the political will nor the courage to do the right thing and stand up for what's right for our community.
Translation in the schools. Remember that you put that law. Just forget. Every single parent has the right to know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so your
Very
fifth,
important as immigrants.
thank you. Your fifth question is on the topic of public safety and quality of life. Residents across State Senate District 13 Residents across State Senate District 13 consistently express concerns about public safety, not only in terms of serious crime, but also quality of life issues that directly affect daily life of neighbors, like in Roosevelt Avenue, including persistent reports of street-level prostitution, illegal vending, and associated disorder. At the same time, many community members emphasize the importance of ensuring enforcement is fair, culturally sensitive, and does not unfairly target immigrant populations or small vendors trying to make a living. What specific policies would you support at the state level to address these public safety and quality of life concerns in a way that balances enforcement with community trust, and how would you measure whether your approach is actually improving the conditions on the ground in District 12?
District 13.
Okay.
So, 90th Street and Roosevelt Avenue. Does anyone know that corner, that street? Right? You got about 30 brothels operating on one block.
Yes.
About 30. You don't believe me? You can take a walk with me tonight. 90th Street. You know who the assembly person is for 90th Street and Roosevelt Avenue? Assemblywoman Rojas Gonzalez. You know who our senator is, right? She's the senator too for that strip. So we're talking about the worst crime-infested, open-air sex, illegal sex market in all of New York State. And you would think that the two representatives would stand up for the victims, for the women who have been made slaves by cartels, who have been brought here against their will. Some of them have to pay a fine of $50,000 to get their freedom. All factual, discussed by the FBI. We know it's happening, and so they literally have to pay a $35,000 to $50,000 debt so that they can buy their freedom. And my opponents, instead of calling for more enforcement and more action, both of them had forums. They had forums, and forums are nice. But there's a time for forums, and there's a time for enforcement. So let me tell you what Senator Montserrat will do in his first 30 days in the New York State Senate. First of all, we're going to put more funding for more police officers because we need our cops. We need our cops. There's no way around it. People are being shot here. We need our cops. Number two, I'm going to introduce a gun trafficking bill because my two opponents were against the bill that would have had severe penalties for people bringing illegal firearms into New York. Think about that for a minute. How could you represent us and be okay that these people don't face serious punishment? People, we really need to know what our elected officials are voting on and doing. Finally, padlock orders. If you're a property owner in Jackson Heights, Corona, or Elmhurst, and you want to rent for a brothel or illegal drug sales, then you're just as guilty as the people who are organizing the crime. And so, work and are not teaching them what kind of future are they going to have. They're not going to have a future. In fact, by allowing that, and for any elected official not to stand up immediately and work on funding after-school tutoring programs at every one of those failing schools to lift those kids up. My son is 7 years old and he goes to public school, but he also gets tutoring. And so God has blessed me that I'm able to do that. But there's a lot of parents who need support to tutor their children. And so if we allow these children to continue to fail, then we are setting them up to go to prison. And so, that's real talk. Because a lot of these kids are going to go the wrong way because they're not going to have the pathway. They don't have the basic tools to even get a civil service job. So that's a failure. We're going to change that when I'm in the Senate. I'm going to fund every underperforming school. And I will introduce a bill that says in the state of New York, if a school is underperforming, there will be a state subsidy to that school for tutoring, for mentorship, and to lift those children up. We've heard for the last 3 months plenty of campaign speeches. They say the same things. Tax to rich. I'm a progressive. But where's the progress for our community? And that's why I'm running.
Thank you. All right, your next question is on the topic of healthcare and Medicaid. Queens residents, especially immigrant communities, continue to face barriers in accessing affordable and culturally competent healthcare. What should New York State do to strengthen Medicaid, mental health services, and hospital funding in underserved communities in District 13? The follow-up question to that is, do you support expanding state-funded healthcare coverages regardless of immigration status?
Thank God we live in New York City, right? New York City provides health care to anyone that needs it. Everyone all right back there? You guys good? So New York City provides health care, that's a good thing. I believe that health care is a human right. For all human beings. If you get hurt, you should get treatment. We should never live in a society where someone who needs medical assistance doesn't get it. So I fully support everyone, every human being to get the health care they need. That's my position. Short and simple. It's not complicated. I don't care if they're Republicans, I don't care if they're Democrats, documented, undocumented. It doesn't matter. Everyone should get health care in New York. And that's where I'm at. But I want to talk about health care. Because we only have one hospital in this area, Elmhurst. We had COVID. Remember COVID? We all know people who passed away. We saw people dying in our own community. We saw the federal government put the freezer trucks in front of Elmhurst Hospital. But 5 years later, after thousands of our neighbors were killed because of a virus, you know how many more hospital beds we have? 0. My elected officials, our assemblywoman, our senator, after COVID hit, allowed for the calamity or the potential of another calamity to exist because we don't have enough healthcare services or hospital beds in this community. Failure upon failure upon failure. Intentions don't matter if they don't result in good results for this community. That's why I'm running. But let me just close with this on the issue of health care. The borough of Queens has twice the population of Manhattan. We have 7 hospitals. Manhattan has 20 hospitals. Think about that for a minute.
Mental health.
We have double the population, and they have almost triple the amount of hospitals. And so I would ask yourself, I would ask myself, you should ask yourself, now that I gave you that information, what have our local elected officials at the state level done to increase healthcare capacity, to increase hospital beds and protections? Nada. Mental health Here's the truth. There's arguments on both sides that have merit. Will it bring jobs? Yeah, it's going to bring jobs, no doubt about it. Union jobs, people there, they're going to fix the park. Is there going to be more problems with mental health and addiction? Absolutely. Can the casino potentially bring more crime to our community? Absolutely. So, really, both sides of this issue have merit and have negatives. But let me say this. The casino is a done deal because they have a license in their hand issued by the state of New York. So they have a license. So what we need to do now is figure out how we ensure that any negative impact that's going to come from the casino is met with a smart plan to protect people. But I want to say, and I have to say it, I really don't like this setup. One candidate had to leave, right? The first candidate said she couldn't stay longer, so instead of the three of us having a conversation, she's gone. I would have loved for her to respond to me. Because she said a few minutes ago that she didn't vote for the approval, she only voted for the land use part. That was not truthful. It's okay if you want to support the casino. Then argue your point why you support it. But don't try to hide and fool people about what you did. You voted for it by giving them the opportunity to take the land. That's what she did. The other problems is we know the reports about all the money that family members got or their non-profits got. Those are real concerns, right? Because the concern here is, was there money that influenced a vote? Was there money that influenced a vote? By the way, follow the money, that's correct. So the issue here with the assembly member who claims that she didn't vote for it, when there's all these facts happening behind, is questionable. Now, the other side is not much better. The senator also benefited from the casino and the lobbyists and the people, etc. So right now, the only person that didn't take $1 from the casino people is Hiram Montserrat. Your next senator. Your next senator. Thank you.
Thank you. So the next question is on the Chinese American Planning Council. The Chinese American Planning Council is a home care agency that has stolen $90 million from immigrant women home care workers, illegally stealing 11 hours of wages from each sleepless 24-hour workday. Yet CPC still receives hundreds of millions in state funding every year in violation of state law. What is your stance on the issue? Do you think the state government should stop funding CPC until CPC pays back workers?
Yes, they should stop funding them. There's a real problem when you steal wages from workers.
Yes, take them to jail.
Today, there were Asian women campaigning in support of my opponent. Okay? So these were not people aligned to me. They were campaigning for the senator. And they wound up having a yelling match with the candidate for the New York State Assembly. We know he just spoke, they gave him the mic. I saw a video an hour and a half ago where he said to them, go back to Flushing. I would question that. Who is he to tell anyone, especially a group of Asian women, to go back to Flushing? So I would ask Mr. Romero, if he's in the room, I would love to hear his answer to that. Because we should never allow people to denigrate anyone, especially on the issue of ethnicity and race. This is a very sensitive issue. This is unacceptable. I didn't believe it until I saw the Instagram video that they would say that against the women because they're fighting for their 24-hour wages. Again, those women were working against me because I'm a campaign contrary to their candidate. But I would denounce strongly, aggressively, anyone who points a finger at any other person because they'll do it to the Asians today and the Muslims tomorrow and the Sikhs the next day and everyone, the Hindus and everyone else. It's wrong. In this campaign, I've had the honor of having Bangladeshi Muslim supporters, and I thank you and I honor you for your support. I honor you. But I want to say this. We've already had 2 incidents right here in Jackson Heights, 81st Street. 2 days ago, a woman told one of my workers, go back to India. Okay? That happened 2 days ago on 81st Street. Another one of my campaign people, again, another slur. We can't live like this, folks. Even in politics, we have to put the hatred aside. You don't like me, you don't want to vote for me, don't vote for me. But there's no place for hate in our community.
District 13 includes residents with deeply personal ties to Israelis and Palestinians, and the ongoing conflict has had real impacts on the community relations right here in New York City, including reported increases in anti-Semitism and Islamophobia. While foreign policy is federal, what responsibility should state lawmakers have in addressing the local impact of global conflicts, particularly in terms of hate crimes, public discourse, and community cohesion in Queens? In addition, this ongoing conflict has led to a significant rise in Islamophobia and anti-Semitism. How do you plan on addressing this very important issue in New York City?
First of all, quite some time ago, I publicly called for a ceasefire. A few minutes ago, someone tried to state they were the only person. That's just not true. That wasn't a truthful statement. I served in the United States military. I joined the Marine Corps when I was 17 years old. And I will tell you that putting anyone in harm's way has got to be one of the toughest decisions that any leader makes. A decision that must be deliberate. Commission on Civil Rights because of a series of anti-Semitic writings that were happening right here in Jackson Heights. We also know that there's Islamophobia. I've seen it myself in this campaign in the last couple of weeks. Not actually in the last week. I never thought that there was so much hatred, racism, Islamophobia and anti-Semitism in this very community where I live. Yes. So I would honor everyone. We get together. Yes. We hold hands, multicultural groups, yes, to bring everyone together, yes, because we're all God's children. That's what I believe. Yes. It doesn't matter if you're LGBTQ. It doesn't matter if you're Muslim. It doesn't matter if you're Hindu or Sikh. We should come together, all of us. That's the community that I know. That's the Jackson Heights, the Corona, the East Elmer, the Woodside community that I want to be proud of. And we're going to be proud again because we're going to clean this community. We're going to make it safe. Our schools are going to work better. And we're going to be proud of this community as your next state senator.
Comes from the audience. So one of the biggest critiques of you has been your previous troubles when in office. Why should voters trust you once again to return to the Senate despite those troubles? And what have you learned going through the adversity you had to overcome in the past years?
Thank you for this question. I mean that. I opened up being open about my mistakes and my poor choices. I made some serious ones. And I paid a serious price. My freedom, my reputation, financially. I learned a lot. And I went to places that none of you would ever want to be in. Bad places, dark places, scary places. But somehow I got through that, and I came back. In 2016, the love of my life accepted me as her husband, and my beautiful bride. Now we're married 10 years. That marriage produced a beautiful baby boy who just turned 7. And I'm raising him in this we're going to go back to making this a beautiful community again. I love you all.
Alright, so before we hear the closing statement, just something to end it on a lighter note. Something quick, 35 seconds, quick answers. Favorite restaurant or small business in the district?
Kebab King Chicken Tikka. Try the chicken tikka at Kebab King.
5 seconds, bro.
You won't forget me.
Alright, favorite pastime or hobby when not campaigning?
Air conditioner, Netflix, and my wife and son.
How would you rate the job Zora Mondani has been doing thus far as mayor, 1 out of 10?
Average.
What, 5?
6.
Do you support congestion pricing?
Yes or no? I don't like the tax. I hope the money's being used wisely.
Yes or no? Yes or no?
You didn't say that to Jay.
I'll say yes with an explanation.
Queensway or Queens Link?
Queens Link?
Which one do you prefer? Queensway or Queens Link?
Link.
Has Governor Hochul been effective as governor?
Yes or
Short answer. Yes.
Do you support Chuck Schumer as the Democrat leader in the Senate?
I think we can do better.
Yes.
Do you support?
Almost done, guys.
Alright. Do you support Hakeem Jeffries as?
Yes! Hakeem, next leader of the House, 100%, no doubt, historic. He will be the first African American speaker in the history of our nation. Go Hakeem!
Last one. Do you consider what Israel is doing in Gaza a genocide?
There's definitely genocide going on.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. Give it up for our Can you believe that they're going to give me more time to talk? I'm going to do this in 1 minute. Tuesday the 23rd, we have a big decision to make. I encourage everyone to vote. I will say to you, has our community gotten better in the last 6 to 8 years?
No.
If the answer to that is no, then vote for me. If you believe that our community of Jackson Heights, East Elmhurst, Corona, Elmhurst, Woodside, Regal Park is doing better today than it was 6 or 8 years ago, then you can vote for the status quo. I hope that you vote for me. And I ask for your vote and your family's vote. Because they had almost 8 years to do something and they didn't do it. No affordable housing, unsafe streets, cartels, prostitution,
not easy. We have a congressional candidate here, Felipe Garcia, so I'd love for him to come up and say a word to the community.
Hola. Hello, thank you. So my name is Felipe Garcia, and I'm running for Congress, challenging AOC in the Democratic primaries. Me llamo Felipe Garcia, estoy corriendo para Congreso. I'm challenging AOC in the Democratic Party. I know they hear it though. I'm raised, born, and still live in the district, Hunts Point. I used to be the Director of Energy Management and Engineering, the Masada Health System. I love the Bronx, that's where I was from. I love Queens. It's a good pair, but we're not getting right representation, true representation. Our leaders not putting our district first. Good for her, good and ambitious and things, but she's not putting our district first. We need somebody that cares about this, that loves this district, will do everything they need to do to get everything they need over here. I'm big on healthcare, because I'm from healthcare, public safety, and mental health. I do not owe anything to anyone in Congress. I don't have not one political friend. This is truly grassroots. I know what an 8 to 5 is, I know what an 8 to 8 is, and I'm asking for your support. So Felipe Garcia, Democratic primary, vote for me for the rest of it. Thank you so much. And I'll be here all night.
Thank you so much. We have another candidate that is running for state comptroller, Raj Goel. Again, it's a very low voter turnout, so I know everyone's passionate about Senate District 13, but there's a statewide race going on as well, and we have a candidate for state comptroller.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Good evening. Alrighty. My name is Raj Goel. I want to see a show of hands. How many of you ever thought about the state comptroller's race?
Oh, yes.
Oh, look at that. Of course. She's all about the state comptroller.
Looking for you.
Hey, thank you. Oh my God, great to see you. Let me just explain 30 seconds. The state comptroller, the most powerful office you've never heard of. $300 billion pension fund. The state auditor. And who's got it? An incumbent in Albany who's been in Albany 40 years, been a politician 53 years, is not growing that pension fund, has $500 million in the company powering ICE. Can you believe that in this era of ICE terrorizing our immigrant communities? And has almost $500 million in Israel bonds funding a genocide abroad. That's your taxpayer money. Not lowering our Con Ed bills, not investing in affordable housing, also investing in fossil fuels. I'm Raj Goel. I've been an ACLU lawyer. Who remembers after 9/11 when the Bush administration came after our communities? You remember that? That's because we had to fight for our civil rights and civil liberties. I worked at the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. I worked in South Africa fighting apartheid when President Mandela was there in South Africa. That's because we need people who represented our community. My parents came from India with nothing. Like so many people, we must uphold our immigrant values. I know what that's like when our parents come from nothing, and like you, I've succeeded. I'm the only one in this race who's the first in my family born in this country with immigrant roots, and we can defeat a long-term Albany incumbent with your help, inshallah. All right? Yeah, thank you so much. Now let me tell you this. If the Knicks can win in 5, can we win the comptroller's race? Yeah, that's right. And remember when the Knicks were down in Game 4, and it looked like it was impossible? And then they slowly kept coming back. Slowly kept coming back. And then the hand of God, OG, has that tip in. And remember, before the tip in, remember what he did? He had a block. Because the Spurs were coming down, we would have been up 3. But instead, he blocked it, and then he got back to do the hand of God. That's the kind of spirit we have in New York right now. That's the change that we can bring. And the state comptroller's office, we put it on the map. Now, with your help, we've got 5 days of early voting left through Sunday, and then you know the election day is next Tuesday. We can actually get this race done. We can bring change to Albany. Vote out an entrenched incumbent and get somebody who will fight for you. So I'm going to thank you so much. If you want to vote, you want that Con Ed bill to go down, you want housing to be built, you want to get out of funding the genocide, you want to get out of funding ICE, you want to support immigration and immigrants, vote Raj Goel for comptroller. Thank you so very much. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Raj Goel. Again, get out and make sure you vote. Now we have our last candidate for Senate District 13, the incumbent, Senator Jessica Ramos. Can we give her a round of applause?
us all strong. And again, once again, just to reiterate the rules, please be respectful. Again, we want to make sure we heard 2 candidates. We're now about to hear the incumbent, and it's being live streamed by 3 different platforms. So a couple hundred people are watching online as well. So 2 minutes of opening statement, then we'll go right into questions. So the floor is yours.
All right, well, good evening, everyone. Buenas noches. Assalamu alaikum. Waheguru di casa. Waheguru di mate. It is wonderful to be here. Tonight's forum is very convenient for me since I only had to come from downstairs where our office is located. So thank you so much to the organizers for allowing the community to continue the conversation about what our representative in State Senate District 13 should be doing. My name is Jessica Ramos. I've been your state senator for the past 8 years. I am proud to be born and raised in this district. I was born in Elmhurst Hospital. My parents are Colombian immigrants who arrived in the 70s. Over the past 8 years, I have passed over 200 bills. I have written over 50 laws, largely tackling our affordability crisis. I've raised the minimum wage and tied it to inflation for the first time in the history of New York State. I created a $2.1 billion excluded workers fund during the pandemic to help those who didn't qualify for unemployment insurance. And through our work in the budget, I have expanded child care subsidies from 275% to 400% of the federal poverty line, so including families hovering around an income of $80,000 a year. I am very proud of the record that we have had. I'm prouder still of the constituent services that my incredible team has provided over the past 8 years. We are known as being the most reliable office for constituent services in this district, and we are very proud of that. So I am hoping that you can send me back to Albany for another 2 years so that we can keep building on our record and keep working together to make our district the best possible area it can be.
Thank you for that. So the first question is going to be about political alignment. Senate District 13 is widely seen as part of a growing progressive coalition in Queens, but also includes a broad spectrum of Democratic voters, from labor-aligned moderates to Democratic socialists and tenant organizers. You and your opponents have significant endorsements from different wings of the Democratic coalition. What does your campaign say about the future direction of Queens politics, and how would you govern in Albany when you are expected to build coalitions across ideological divides within your own party?
All right, well, thank you for the question. I'm very proud to be endorsed by the Senate Majority Leader, Andrea Stewart-Cousins, and a countless number of my colleagues in the New York State Senate. We are also endorsed by, I think, nearly 24 labor unions. And perhaps to me, those are some of the most significant endorsements because it means that groups of workers trust what we've been able to build together. And I'd like to throw in there the support of ununionized workers, because there are so many people, especially women of color, who are out there pounding the pavement to make sure that we can continue to fight for the dignity and the respect that they deserve. Whether they're nail salon workers, they're home care attendants, and of course making sure that we are helping our taxi drivers. Our district is actually home to the largest concentration of TLC license holders, which is why I was so proud to champion the formula for restructuring the yellow taxi medallion loans a few years ago. So those are really important endorsements to me. And it's the coalition that I'm hoping will continue to build on so that we can keep passing legislation. Every single bill of the 200 plus bills that I have passed have been the result of a coalition with advocates, with workers, with legislators, so that we can bring lasting change to New York.
Thank you for that. So the next question is in regards to affordability and the cost of living. The New York State Senate controls tax policy, budget priorities, and major affordability programs that that directly shape the cost of living right here in Queens? What is the single most impactful state policy you would fight for to reduce the cost burden on working class families in District 13, and how would you pay for it?
Well, fighting to raise the minimum wage was really hard. Governor Hochul had just recently taken office. It was one of our first budgets together, if not the first budget together, if I remember correctly. And I actually asked for $21.25 by 2026, and she said she only wanted $1, which is what we ended up doing in the budget back in 2023. I would love the opportunity to go back at it again and actually make sure that we are helping workers catch up with rising rents. And I certainly want to support a presidential candidate who understands tariffs, understands our economy, understands how high gas prices are, and it's, I think, an all-inclusive affordability agenda that also encompasses building the number of affordable housing units, and specifically low-income housing units and senior housing units that we need in order to give people the permanent shelter that they deserve.
Thank you.
Okay, this next one is about the housing and rent crisis. District 13 is one of the most rent-burdened areas in New York City, with increasing displacement and pressure. Do you believe New York State is doing enough on housing production and tenant protections? If not, what specific change in state law would you prioritize first?
Well, I want to invite everyone to read my bill, the Jobs and Housing Act. I was able to get it in the one-house budget. This past year, we were able to allocate $25 million for it in the one-house budget. Unfortunately, I haven't had an assembly partner to do it on our side, on that side, and so we can get it in the final budget. But the idea is for us to be able to leverage our taxpayer dollars with our union pension dollars to build affordable housing the way we used to. Even before, everybody raves about Mitchell-Lama apartments, but even before that, if you take a look at a Westchester in Flushing or Co-op City in the Bronx, unions used to be able to count on government, workers used to be able to count on government to actually leverage their pension money and invest in building worker housing. And that's what we need to get back to. Make sure that we are building not only even rental units, but low equity, modest equity homeownership opportunities, so that our generation can go back to dreaming about actually owning our own house.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that answer. The next topic we are going to be addressing is immigration. District 13 is home to one of the most diverse immigrant populations in the country. With increased federal immigration enforcement and fear within immigrant communities, what role should New York State play in protecting undocumented residents? Where should the line be drawn between state cooperation and federal enforcement? And would you support expanding state-funded legal defense for immigrants or strengthening sanctuary protections statewide?
Yes, I am very supportive of access to representation and, of course, for there to be a separation of law enforcement powers. The New York City Executive Order 41 is very clear that undocumented immigrants should be able to access city services, and that the city will not and cannot share that information, your personal information, with the federal government unless there are felonies involved. Unfortunately, at the state level, we don't necessarily have that as clear in the law. And in this past year, we fought very hard in order to pass New York for All, in order to ban masks on ice, which that part we actually were able to secure. But we're having some very serious constitutional issues when it comes to due process. And to me, the Constitution is very clear. The Constitution says that no person, or every person, should be given the right to due process, and does not distinguish between citizens and non-citizens. That is a human right in our country, and I am going to continue to be supportive of policies in order to help all people, no matter what their immigration status is, especially because I'll never forget where I come from. My parents are immigrants from Colombia who arrived here, who were undocumented. That is the American story. That is certainly the story of District 13, and that is what makes our district one of the best places and the most diverse places in the world.
Alright, so this next question is going to be a little loaded, so if you want me to repeat anything, please let me know. This is about public safety and quality of life. Residents across State Senate District 13 consistently express concerns about public safety. Not only in terms of serious crime, but also quality of life issues that directly affect daily life in neighborhoods like Roosevelt Avenue, including persistent reports of street-level prostitution, illegal vending, and associated disorder. At the same time, many community members emphasize the importance of ensuring law enforcement is fair, culturally sensitive, and does not unfairly target immigrant populations or small vendors trying to make a living. What specific policies would you support at the state level to address these public safety and quality of life concerns in a way that balances enforcement with community trust? And how would you measure whether your approach is actually improving conditions on the ground in District 13?
Well, I support intervention on behalf of the Department of Justice in order to address the transnational criminal organizations that operate along Roosevelt Avenue. I think that a lot is getting lost actually in the discourse of this race when it comes to the trafficking of humans for the purpose of sex work and or prostitution, whatever you want to call it. The reality is that the vast majority of these people are not engaging in sex work because they choose to, but rather transnational criminal organizations take away their passport, threaten their families back home, and it's very unfortunate that we cannot trust the current federal administration to come in and apply RICO laws and conduct the level of investigations that are necessary in order to root out the real villains along the avenue. And I have to state for the record that I don't know one person who wants to legalize prostitution. What I want to see is people who are trafficked being empowered and feeling protected by the law to report their traffickers or their pimps. Right now, the law punishes the person who is engaging in sex work, and they do not seek the help they need from authorities in order to capture those traffickers. So even if the city comes in and does sweeps and they arrest 100 people, mostly immigrant women who are engaging in prostitution, it's just a matter of weeks before we see another wave of women that are trafficked all over again. And that is because we are not attacking the root of the issue. And so I really wish that we had the cooperation at the federal level. Advocate for more sanitation services that we need.
That's the next topic we're going to be addressing is education. Public schools in Queens face overcrowding, high ESL student populations, and growing mental health needs. What changes would you advocate for in Albany to improve how New York funds and supports high-need school districts in those in District 13? And do you support changes to specialized high school admissions policy in New York City? Why or why not?
So District 13 encompasses the eastern part of School District 30 and the northern part of School District 24. I have to say I am a proud graduate of School District 30. I attended PS 70, IS 10, and the Academy of American Studies. And I'm a proud mom to 2 boys who graduated from PS 69 just down the block. My oldest is now in a city public high school, and my youngest is in a public middle school. And I can attest to the quality of education that is offered in our public schools, and it's why I have refused to accept charter school money and want to keep advocating for high quality public education, even at the college level. I think that is critical. We want to make sure that our schools are providing services to students well beyond the classroom. I have been one of the foremost proponents of the community schools model, so that our schools actually have the services, whether it be mental health services, or even something as simple as laundry machines, so that students can wash their clothes if they're not able to at home, in order to make sure that they are paying attention and focused in the classroom. And I know that this is effective because prior to being a state senator, I used to work at City Hall at the Department of Education as part of the community schools team. I was also part of the team that delivered on universal pre-K. So we want to keep making those investments and making sure that we are meeting not only the student but the entire family where they are.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. This next one's going to be about healthcare. Queens residents, especially immigrant communities, continue to face barriers in accessing affordable and culturally competent health care. What should New York State do to strengthen Medicaid, mental health services, and hospital funding in underserved communities like District 13? And as a follow-up, do you support expanding state-funded healthcare coverage regardless of immigration status?
Absolutely. I'm also the prime co-sponsor of the New York State Senate for the New York Health Act. We have an obligation to deliver on single-payer health care for all people. I mean, diseases, injuries don't know whether you have papers or not. COVID certainly didn't care whether you are documented or undocumented. We have a responsibility to each other to make sure that we are providing high-quality health care. And I lament that at the state level, our Medicaid reimbursements have been so low. They're actually only about 30 cents to the dollar. And there is a lot that we can still do in order to make sure safety net hospitals, like my birthplace, Elmhurst Hospital, actually has the level of funding in order to provide the type of health professionals that we need. Right now, the city hospital department, H&H, has a contract with Mount Sinai, and we are unable to recruit the types of nurses and doctors that are needed because Mount Sinai pays more across the East River and Manhattan than those health professionals get paid here in Elmhurst for doing the exact same work. So that's why I was out on the picket line with the nurses, with the doctors, when they were asking for higher pay, because they are burnt out and they deserve the recognition and the respect that merits taking care of such a diverse population as is our Senate District 13.
Awesome. Thank you so much. The next topic covers something that I think is on everybody's mind in this district, which is the Metropolitan Park Casino and Entertainment Complex in Corona, which has generated significant debate across Queens. Supporters argue it would bring jobs, tax revenue, and economic investment to the area, while opponents raise concerns about gambling addiction, traffic congestion, strain on infrastructure, and long-term community impact. As a state senator representing this district, what is your position on the proposed project? I know some of us know already, but for those that don't, and what specific conditions, if any, will need to be met for you to support or oppose it?
A few years ago, about 3 years ago, Steve Cohen and his team came to me and started pitching me on Metropolitan Park, which is a casino, a hotel, some entertainment in terms of a food court, a concert hall, a 20-acre park. And over time, after having really careful conversations with my community, it was very clear that my neighbors do not want a casino in our district. I did my due diligence. I did 3 town halls. I conducted an online survey. I even paid for a poll. And time again, around 3/4 of our community was clear and said no casino. That is why when Steve Cohen came to me and asked me to introduce legislation to alienate parkland, public parkland for the purposes of a casino, I said no. He was able to go to a different senator in order to introduce the legislation, but I was very clear in my speech on the Senate floor that I would not be voting for that legislation. Now, I had the opportunity to appoint someone to the Community Advisory Council. And very early on in the process, I had made a promise that I would appoint, not myself, even though I could, that I would appoint someone who lives in the community closest to Metropolitan Park. And so I decided on elevating one of our dearest elders in the African American community of East Elmhurst, George Dixon. And we had been on the phone up until the moment of the vote, and he ultimately decided to vote in favor. The vote would not have made a difference because everyone else, all of the other elected officials, appointed themselves and they voted yes. So whether it was 5-1 or 6-0, either way it was going to happen. The moment to kill the casino was to prevent that bill from coming to the floor in the legislature and making sure that every elected official, including my main opponent, had the opportunity to vote no and to make an impassioned speech on the floor, letting the rest of this district know that we do not want access to casino addiction, to gambling addiction. We have issues with environmental impacts when there's rapid rainfall. And, you know, the casino Well, I don't think it's a done deal. We are yet to see a groundbreaking really take place. I want to make sure that we're fighting until the end. I resent the fact that so many people seem to be okay with not just a billionaire, but a billionaire who was indicted for insider trading, a billionaire who, through his hedge fund, invests in Palantir, which is responsible for so many of our ICE detention centers in New York State. This means that every politician who voted for the casino aligned themselves with one of the people profiting from ICE kidnapping our neighbors, and that is wrong. So I'm going to continue to fight this with my community until the very end.
Very good. Thank you so much. As we head to the end of the forum, this question is regards to Chinese American Planning Council, which is a home care agency that has stolen $90 million from immigrant women, home care workers, illegally stealing 11 hours of wages from each sleepless 24-hour workday. Yet CPC still receives hundreds of millions in state funding every year in violation of state law. What is your stance on the issue, and do you think that state government should stop funding CPC until they pay back workers?
You know, the feminization of poverty is very real. Mostly women of color, are tasked with doing some of the hardest care jobs there are. Whether it's cleaning houses, whether it's taking care of young children, but especially taking care of people with disabilities and our aging grandparents who can't take care of themselves. And many times, these home health attendants are even elder women themselves. This is a very heartbreaking case when it comes to wage theft, blatant wage theft, clear wage theft that has taken place under the careful eye of the city and state. And I am very proud of the home health attendants who sued, who won, but unfortunately so many of these companies and organizations like CPC have been allowed to continue doing business with the government even though they are breaking the law. I actually carried legislation to disbar contractors who are engaging in wage theft with the state. I don't think anyone who has been found guilty of wage theft in the millions should be awarded and rewarded with contracts that are funded by taxpayer dollars. We are talking about our women, mostly Asian and Latina women, many of whom live here in our community. And I think that the New York State Senator representing District 13 can never leave those women behind.
Thank you so much. This next one is about the conflict in the Middle East. District 13 includes residents with deeply personal ties to Israelis and Palestinians, and the ongoing conflict has had real impacts on community relations in New York City, including reported increases in anti-Semitism and Islamophobia. While foreign policy is federal, what responsibility should state lawmakers have in addressing local impact of global conflict, particularly in terms of hate crimes, public disclosure, and community cohesion in Queens? In addition, this ongoing conflict has led to a significant rise in Islamophobia and anti-Semitism. How do you plan in addressing this very important issue in New York City?
Well, we already have begun to address it because unfortunately there have been incidences such as those that have taken place in our communities. And, you know, at the very basic level, it's important to call it out. It's important to denounce it. It's important for it to be investigated. And of course, there have to be consequences when hate crimes take place. Our community, given our diversity, has even seen hate crimes committed against the LGBTQ community. And if we pride ourselves in our diversity, then we have to be responsible and understand what our role is in emulating coexistence for the rest of the world. So I want to make sure that we are calling out those incidences of anti-Semitism like we saw during the vandalism of a menorah just this past Hanukkah several months ago. Same thing with incidences of Islamophobia or homophobia or transphobia or anyone else. We want everybody to feel respected in our district. And yes, I am both thankful and humbled that I do not have to solve personally the issue in the Middle East. But I will have to say that it is my hope that Netanyahu steps aside and that he no longer is the leader of Israel.
Thank you so much. And for this next one, it's a specific question from the audience. So there's one question for you, specifically. One of the biggest critiques of you has been your decision to endorse Andrew Cuomo after spending years of being very critical of him. This has led to members of DSA as well as other progressives in and out of your district to be very skeptical of you. Most of the overlapping electeds have also decided to endorse your opponent. What led you to endorse Cuomo, and how do you plan on restoring the trust that was lost?
Well, I think hindsight is always 20/20, but when I made the decision to make that endorsement, it was at that point a race between two men. And I decided to go with the person with the most experience without apologizing for all of the things that I have criticized him for. And I think in the end, we have Mayor Mamdani. His success is certainly the city's success. And I think ultimately the mayoral election may be over, but what we need to unite around here in the district is in stopping the casino, because the casino is haram. And so I want to make sure that we are steadfast in realizing who has voted for the casino and who has decided to stand with our neighbors in order to continue fighting until we stop it.
That's good. I have to double check you said it wrong, right? That's good. Okay, so before we end it off with the closing statement, a little bit on the lighter note, quick lightning round.
Okay.
Please keep it under 5 seconds.
5 seconds.
Quick answers. The first one is favorite restaurant or small business in the district.
Oh, this is one of those questions that gets you in trouble.
Yeah.
I mean, I can name my favorite restaurant per
5
country.
seconds. 5, 4.
I love Namoina Rohan, Colombian restaurant. I love Fayul, which is one of the Tibetan restaurants. And I'm a big fan of kebab cake.
Favorite pastime hobby when not campaigning?
My plants. In my 40s, I have become a plant lady.
What would you rate the job Zora Mondani has been doing thus far as mayor, 1 out of 10?
Well, it's only been 6 months, but I would give him around a 7 or an 8. And my hope is that he continues to serve in a way that people feel like their needs are met.
Do you support congestion pricing?
I voted for congestion pricing.
Queensway or Queenslink?
Queenslink.
Has Kathy Hochul been effective as governor?
I think she's been effective in many ways. I wish she was more effective in addressing affordability issues and more aggressive in delivering on universal child care.
Do you support Chuck Schumer as a Democrat leader in the Senate?
I think that it may be time for new leadership at the Senate level.
Do you support Hakeem Jeffries as the Democrat leader in the House?
Absolutely.
Do you consider what Israel is doing in Gaza a genocide?
I think a lot of people think that's the case, and I think you can only see all of the innocent civilians and especially children who have been murdered. I'm a pacifist and will always call for a permanent ceasefire. I would love to live in a world where diplomacy reigns. I saw how war ravaged my parents' country, which has been at civil war for 70 years, and that's not something I wish for anybody. And again, Netanyahu should step aside.
All right, thank you. Can we give it up for Senator?